Hi everyone, welcome. So my name is Monique. I'm one of the social media interns at the UCC Women's Center. Just some quick story about me before we head off to my co-host, co-guest, Amara. So I'm a sociology student at UCC with a minor in ethnic studies, and I'm super excited and honored to be able to do this interview with Amara, and very grateful to be able to hold the space to hear your story and everyone tuning in. Just so folks know, like this will be kind of heavy, so kind of prepare yourself. So Amara, would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you? Who is Amara, and how do you identify yourself?
Oh, thank you so much, Monique. Yeah, so my name is Amara Sengamphan. I am the graphic designs intern at the Women's Center at UC San Diego. So this interview today, I'm going to talk all about my gendered action project. So for those who don't know, interns at the Women's Center have the really great opportunity to present any type of feminist passions that we feel really strongly about. And so my gendered action project, what I did was create a COVID-19 grief, grief and loss support forum for students on campus. And the reason why I did that is because I lost my father to COVID-19 in December of 2020. And millions of people all around the world have also lost someone due to COVID-19. But it's really hard not to feel alone. It's it's really hard not to feel sadness, and it's really hard to experience grief as a woman, with all the other parts of myself, pulling myself one way. And so I basically wanted to find other people who understood me, and I wanted to find and share my story dealing with grief for in COVID-19 so others don't feel as alone as I once did.
So yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Amra. So let's kind of get started to the meat of this interview. So I guess how did your identity kind of affect your bereavement process in relation to the topic that you're exploring? And you said it is grief and loss, right? So
Yeah.
how did that kind of play with your who you are and kind of translate to your bereavement process?
Um, as a first generation woman, right? I come from a family of immigrants, more specifically refugees.
Mm,
So like these two parts of my identity, being the eldest woman and daughter of Cambodian refugees, like there's cultural expectations of me that I have
mm,
to step up to, when crises happen. And this is not
mm,
something that only I experience. I feel, statistics say that women are relied upon in the US to be the social safety net because the lack of national policies to ensure all workers have access to paid quality paid leave, affordable healthcare, affordable childcare, like the list goes on. And so how that ties into my story is that I have a 10-year-old sister, and my mom is full-time county worker,
mm,
and she also runs a home care business taking care of adults who physically are unable to do so without help.
mm,
And so once my father passed away, I had to move out of my apartment, drop everything. I dropped all my classes, um, moved back home, and I was here, like taking over the jobs that I feel like if we had better infrastructure here in our United States would have been okay, right? But since we don't have childcare and since we don't have free healthcare, I had to step up and be a second mom to my younger sister. Sit
mm,
there, help her with online school for, days at a time, because that's a hard adjustment for them already, online
mm,
school for children. And so for me, I came in, help cook, clean, take care of the residents, take care of my
mm,
sister, and be a therapist for my mom. Like honestly, like
mm,
I had to put aside my feelings and grief and sadness oftentimes so I can
mm,
step up and be here for the family. And this is what I mean. Like, I don't have time to grieve, right? I don't have
mhm,
time to take the time I need to just sit and be sad, because the lack of infrastructure we have here in America, I owe, like, these responsibilities are being placed on me because I am a woman. And I wouldn't say all Asian people do this, but I would say the majority of Asian families fall into this cycle of, placing a lot of responsibility and pressure onto the eldest daughter. And I have an older brother too, but he doesn't do the same jobs as me. And that's definitely because I'm the eldest daughter. And being an immigrant daughter, educational attainment and career success and all these things are so important to our lineage. When it came last quarter and potentially this quarter, I'm like, nope, not passing any of my classes. It's like, number one, I have to take care of my family. And then number two, I have to take care of my family in the future. Like, I have to get a good job so I can retire my mom. Like, I just needed to say that first before I talked about how I've been processing my grief.
With all of that being said and what you shared so far, how have you been able to, I guess, cope with everything that's been going on? I mean, you just said earlier, like, your identity, your cultural background and stuff, in addition to the grief process. I imagine there's specific issues in relation to that. Like, what have you turned to cope? Have you been in therapy or anything like that?
So the ways that I've been trying to heal myself and cope with my grief is a few different ways. So I have been learning how to set boundaries. I personally get really triggered when I talk about my father's death. Sometimes it's even hard for me to say the day that he passed away. I just clam up. I get quiet because I know I will burst out in tears, even though it's been 5 months. So I'm learning how to tell people that, not to ask me if I'm okay, or not to ask me, how I'm doing, because I just really want to avoid that conversation altogether. Maybe one day I will be ready to talk to people and my friends and my family about how I've been dealing with the death. But for now, the only person I'm able to talk about it with is, my therapist. And so that's the second thing I've been doing to cope. I've been going to therapy. So therapy has been such a good help for me personally, because working with my psychologist and therapist, I was able to explore my thoughts, really understand why I feel the way I feel, explore my patterns of behavior, my trigger warnings, and they helped me learn new coping skills where I have better techniques to better manage my daily life and symptoms associated with my pain. So therapy could be a really beneficial way for another person. Hopefully, if you're able to get it, I really recommend reaching out. On campus, we have CAPS. The UCSC does provide therapy sessions for free for undergraduate and graduate students. So if you definitely relate and you feel like therapy could help you, because therapy has given me the tools, again, to separate my dark feelings from what I want for myself. And reminding me that medication is also okay. So I have been diagnosed with some mental disorders by my psychiatrist and therapist, but they have also helped me realize that this is not something to be ashamed of. And if medication is what's needed to keep moving forward and keep functioning, that is also okay too. Another coping mechanism that I have been doing to help alleviate my grief and stress when it comes to school is ask for accommodation. UCSC is also here to help us. So I was able to reach out to OSC, which is the Disability Accommodation Disability Office. You can find their information on the UCSD website, and I'll also place it in this presentation. Hopefully this will help alleviate some of the stress that I feel about not being able to complete school. Yeah,
thank you for sharing all of that. I actually wanted to say that I think you talked about some really important points, especially like systemically, right? So there's that saying that like systems are, and flawed systems are what lead to mental health issues, which is very true.
Yes.
But I think
Yes.
it's also important for folks to be self-actualizing, to give themselves their tools, right, to empower themselves to heal too, because like there has to be healing work done in multiple ways, like from a systemic standpoint and also from like an individual standpoint as well. So I guess like my last question to you, I think like wrapping up, if you want to add anything else, is like, what do you think we should do about this? What kind of reform do you see in our society in regards to like when you mentioned like childcare infrastructure, right? Maybe even like how gender, right, comes into play in when it comes to grief, right? Especially in certain cultures. Yeah, I guess whatever you would like to add up on that. What do you think we need to reform?
The Women's Center actually hired the Better Life Lab at New America and their policy experts who created a bold policy agenda for work, family justice, and gender equity during COVID-19 and beyond. So this is directly from their website that I will link below. And so what they did is they began conversations to understand what is happening with people and navigating failing work and care systems. They spoke to people at the front lines of the pandemic, professional caregivers, family caregivers, parents, essential workers, etc., so they can fully understand the policy interventions people need the most. And so to tie that in with me, my goal for sharing my story and sharing the research that has already been done is so that maybe sharing my story, it may motivate people to support these new policy agendas to protect women in future crises. And so where you can find that the entire document and comprehensive list of what these policy analysts did, it could be found on the website that I will link below. And the presentation that they did on campus at the Women's Center can be found at our Women's Center website that I will also link here.
Sure. Do you have anything you want folks to know about your event? Also, you should plug in your time and your event too, so folks know when to show up as well.
Yeah. So as a closing, I just wanted to say my story is one of thousands all over the world. The pandemic is a horrible, deadly disease that has been affecting people in more ways than one, including myself. So I really don't want to deal with my grief alone anymore, and you don't have to either. If you relate to my story, please come through to my Grief and Loss Forum June 1st at 5 p.m. The Zoom link would be on our Instagram or Facebook page. The link would be there, and the password is also there. I think it's really important and powerful for us to, share a safe space, to grieve together, to heal together. Times are really tough, but just remember that we don't have to do this alone.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Amara, for allowing me to interview you. It was truly a pleasure, and I'm super excited to see how your event goes. I'm sure it'll go very well, and folks will find so much benefit to it. And empathy and healing, like that is all those things that I hope folks are able to get from your event. So thanks, Amara.
Thank you so much, Monique.